Greetings and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, on episode 46 of Karls Spirits, we're going to be tasting a very popular, currently very popular bourbon, Elijah Craig Small Batch. That's Elijah Craig Small Batch. Elijah Craig is a line of bourbons produced by Heaven Hill Distillery. The historical Elijah Craig, the real life Elijah Craig, was, of all things, a Baptist minister who, as Heaven Hill used to like to call the father of bourbon, who originated in the mid 1700s. This is false. Like a lot of bourbon stories, this has been greatly exaggerated. Elijah Craig did not discover bourbon, nor did he invent bourbon. In fact, the spirit that he probably did produce, we do know he was a real producer, uh, wasn't even in Bourbon County, Kentucky. He was in Germantown, Kentucky, which is outside of that. So that moniker of bourbon being attached to his whiskey probably didn't happen until very much later, after Elijah Craig was long gone. So, failing that particular historical test, they then offer Elijah Craig as the father of charring barrels to age the bourbon spirit in. Supposedly during a barn fire, Craig's barrels were burned on the inside, but they were well enough that they could hold his juice. And he realized what that did for his bourbon, and so therefore he was kind of given credit for a long time as being the originator of barrel charring. Again, many recent historical investigations have probably found that using charred barrels started elsewhere, long before Elijah Craig was supposedly even born. But still, it makes a good story to the uninitiated, or at least it's enough of a story to hang a good sales pitch on, which I think is what Heaven Hill has been doing with this for quite some time. And again, before anyone believes that this bourbon has a long, distinguished lineage in bourbon history, guys, Heaven Hill introduced the Elijah Craig line in 1986. Okay, so yeah, it's 34 years old at this point, but still, it does not have the age or the lineage of bourbon history that we have seen some of the other spirits have as we went through these tastings. Currently, however, there are several expressions of Elijah Craig. The small batch, which we will be tasting tonight, there is an 18-year and a 20-year. And in the past, 3 or 4 years or so, Heaven Hill has really seen a surge in the popularity of their Elijah Craig line. And as such, the 18 and 20 year have become very hard to find and are becoming much more expensive. They're not very hard to find. You can find them, but they are quite pricey. The small batch, they have managed to, they do not put an age statement on anymore. It used to be the 12-year, but now it's about an 8-year-ish product, but there's no age statement. But they have managed to keep the price on this relatively low. And so as a result, for a decent product in a small batch, this has turned this particular product into a very popular drink as well. So of their three main lines, the small batch lost its age statement and keeps price low and plentiful. And the 18 and 20 year has seen their prices increase as they have become more scarce. So that's how the bourbon world works, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's get on to this particular taste tonight. The mash bill for Elijah Craig Small Batch, 78% corn, so very sweet. 10% rye, low rye, 12% malted barley. As I mentioned a while ago, there is no age statement. It is at least 2 years, as it's labeled as a straight whiskey. But a lot of people have mentioned that it's about an 8-year product. It is bottled at 94 proof. And in this case, small batch for Elijah Craig means it's a dump of about 200 barrels or less, they say, that they use to make each release. So that's what they're claiming is their small batch, is about 200 barrels. Remember, there's no legal definition for what a small batch can be. It can be what, 2 barrels, it can be 200. Totally up to the distillery how they want to phrase that. In the glass, and I know it's getting dark and there's some glare behind me, but it's got a really nice medium copper color. Really, really beautiful in the glass. Legs are a little on the thin side, but they are actually impressively very sticky. So while they're not big fat legs that really stick, they're very thin, but they hold really, really well to the glass. On the nose, this has a very classic bourbon nose to me. Lots of vanilla, caramel, and an oaky nut aroma. So I'm getting a lot of those very classic bourbon notes. I also get a hint of black pepper, and I'm going to go with dried corn. I want to say dusty corn. If you've ever opened up a corn crib and had to scoop out corn for livestock, you get that really dry, dusty corn aroma in this as well. Okay, a couple things on taste. First of all, mouthfeel. Thin and light. I find this to be a very light bourbon. There's not a lot of chew going on here at all. It's a very thin, light bourbon. It's almost a summer bourbon, if that makes sense. If you think about winter being thicker, chewy bourbons, make you feel really warm. This is a very light, thin, almost watery summer bourbon. The next thing that really hits me, those oak notes, that vanilla note that we found in the nose, really dominates the pour. It's not particularly complex, but the notes that are there really make it a very enjoyable drink to sip on. I also get more of that dried corn. And there's a little dark fruit hidden in there as well. Not enough for me to tell, and again, my palate is not that developed yet on those fruity notes to tell exactly what it is, but there's a dark fruity feel toward the back of that. Now, I will say there's a hint of something on this as soon as it hits my tongue, and I don't know what it is. I'm going to call it green. And I know that doesn't make sense. I know color is not a taste, but I don't think it's from being poorly aged. I don't think it's from being young. It's an 8-year spirit, guys. But the taste I'm getting, whatever it is, conjures the word green in my brain. And with that is a little bit of astringency right on the tip of the tongue. So that green astringent, whatever it is, hits me really quick on the tip of the tongue, and then it develops those flavors as it travels back across the taste buds through the mouth. So that's kind of where I'm getting on the taste. Finish. Some sweet cinnamon. Gotta love your sweet cinnamon. And I'm going to call this a medium finish. There's some mild heat here, but it's really in line with the proof and the flavor. Remember, this is only a 94 proofer. So this heat is not a bad thing. It makes you think you're drinking bourbon. I get it lingering in the throat. I do not get a nice chest burn or a Kentucky hug out of this, but I do get a little heat in the throat and back of the tongue. So overall, this is a decent bourbon for a really good price, actually. As I mentioned a while ago, they managed on this small batch. They took away the age statement. They dropped the age down to about 8 years or so. And they managed to make it a very reasonably priced bourbon for the product. Locally, you can find this Elijah Craig small batch in several locations for just under the $30 mark. So for the price, this is a good bourbon and one that many people have turned into their daily drinkers. As other things that they have liked have become more expensive Elijah Craig has managed to produce a good product for a relatively low price. And as such, that becomes a daily drinker. It has some balance to it. It's got a good sweet taste in the middle of the tongue, slightly spicy finish with that cinnamon, gives it a little heat. So it's got some balance to it. There's just not a lot of complexity of flavor. So, my rating for this. First of all, full disclosure, rating this is very hard for me. I know many people love Elijah Craig. This expression and the other expressions of this line. But for me, there's just something that puts me off about the Elijah Craig. And it might be that green astringent note that I can't identify. I don't know. Uh, but trying to put that aside and rate only on the taste of what's in this bottle, or this glass, I should say, tonight, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. I just don't think the complexity is there. I don't think the finish is there to give this any higher of a score. So while it's not a bad bourbon, I think there are a lot of other bourbons out there that you can turn to. I know me personally, going out somewhere, I will always ask for something before I ask for the Elijah Craig. That's just me, as all of these have been. So, guys, that's my take on Elijah Craig. I think it's well worth a shot at the price. You may find this to be right up your flavor profile. So give Elijah Craig a shot, even though I'm giving this 3.5 stars. Guys, I hope you all enjoyed Elijah Craig Small Batch. As always, I want you to stay safe, peace, and happy pours.